Hey guys, so today I wanted to do a book recommendations video about something near and dear to my heart, and when I was actually looking for book recommendations for this specific topic, I couldn't find any videos on it, and so I was like, here's my time. If other people can relate to me, then this video will be perfect, because if I was searching for it, maybe other people are searching for it. And I've talked about this in past videos, how I have kind of a short attention span. Don't get me wrong, I can read a really intricate fantasy that's really long and drawn out and detailed and stuff like that, but a lot of times if I read a book like that, I have to take some major breaks, and I need books for people with short attention spans, books that move very, very quickly, books that don't have a lot of description, and things like that. I love a good, just fast-paced, simple novel. And I've talked also a little bit about the fact that I have ADHD, and so sometimes reading can be really difficult for me depending on, how I'm feeling and stuff like that. And because of that, I feel like those short, quick, and easy, fast-paced reads are perfect for people like me when I feel like I need that type of story, if that makes sense. But here's the problem, is I feel like a lot of times those types of books are oftentimes rated lower, and the reason I feel like they're often rated lower is because there's not a lot of, description, there's not a lot of world building, there's not a lot of character development. A lot of times really fast-paced, really to-the-point type of novels do lack in those areas, and a lot of times people will rate those types of books lower because they're not getting that really, really deep connected feeling to those books, because that's what they're looking for. And I feel like we have this stereotype that books that don't have tons of world building and character development and all that kind of thing are lesser than books for some reason. And they can be, don't get me wrong, but not always. Sometimes those of us who do struggle with attention need books like that and really, really enjoy books like that. And I definitely feel like I fall into that category. I hope this video, the reasonings for making this video make sense. I could definitely do more of these in the future as well if you guys like this idea. Okay, so the first book that I wanted to talk about was actually a book that I talked about very recently, but I wanted to start off with it just because I talked about it recently and it's fresh in our minds. But that's House of Shadows. This is the perfect example of a book for people with a short attention span. The author takes zero time to get this book started. She really doesn't care too much about world building or character development or anything like that. She's like, I want to tell a story, and that's all I want to do. I don't need to make you guys feel all the feels. I just want to tell you guys a scary horror story with some romance in it, and here you go. That's what you're getting. And so I feel like with this book, it was perfect for me because I felt like I could just turn the pages and I was constantly entertained and it was constantly moving forward, and the romance was really pushing the plot forward too for me. I feel like that's one of the reasons why I really like romance, is because I feel like oftentimes romance can really push plots forward. I always get excited to see their next interaction, and this book definitely had a lot of those romance moments where it's constantly pushing those romantic interactions. So I feel like this is a great book. It's really, really fast-paced, and it does not take very long to read at all. Like I said, House of Secrets, which is the second one, wasn't that great. I don't recommend that one, but this one is definitely good if you're looking for kind of a read like that. Is this a phenomenal story? Of course not. It does lack character development and things like that, but for a good, quick read, great one. Okay, so the next one is also one that I've talked about a lot, but I do want to talk about this one again really quick because it's perfect for this video, and it's Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. The reason I wanted to talk about this one is because oftentimes people describe this as being similar to a movie. The way he writes it, it feels like you're kind of watching a movie. It's extremely fast-paced, and it's extremely one thing after another. Things keep happening. There's not a lot of downtime in this book, which I really, really liked. And it definitely feels like he really condensed it down to where it feels like you're watching a movie to a certain degree. So I feel like this is a great book, especially if you want something a little bit deeper. If you want something that's really, really, really well written, has a deeper, more thought-provoking plot line. This is going to have that deeper, thought-provoking plot line while also being very, very fast-paced. And I think that that's one of the reasons why this is one of my favorite books of all time, is because I got that more deep plot while also having it be really, really fast-paced, which I feel like is rare, but this is the perfect one for that, so definitely read this. It's a sci-fi. Okay, so the next one is another thriller. Thrillers are oftentimes really great for people with short attention spans, but don't get me wrong, I've definitely read some thrillers that get repetitive, that are slow-paced, and not all thrillers are you know, the same. So one of my favorite thrillers for like fast-paced, you know, it doesn't really let up, is No Exit by Taylor Adams. This one is perfect for somebody that just needs something just really fast-paced. The other great thing about this is there's not a ton of characters because they're stranded on top of a mountain, and the main character in this sees a young child in one of the vans, and she has to figure out who in this rest stop owns that van and kidnapped this child, and she's trying to like save this child. It's very, very fast paced, and so there's a lot going on. There's not very many characters, and I feel like this book just never lets up. Like there's always something happening at all times. Do you have to suspend your disbelief here and there? Yes, I feel like you do with this book, but it was still fun for somebody that does need constant things, you know, popping up every page. They did make a movie about this book. It's not good. Don't watch it. But the book is really good, and it kept me super, super entertained the whole time, and I had so much fun reading this, and I really, really liked it. Okay, so the next one is Verity by Colleen Hoover. This is also a really, really good one. I read this on my Kindle, and I feel like this book is really popular for a reason. It is extremely fast-paced, it is extremely easy to read, and it's really fast moving. Like, I don't feel like she wastes a lot of time in this book, which is great, and I feel like you do really get to know the characters really well, and you really understand the characters really well. It's a really good plot with really good characters, but it's also really fast-paced, and I think that she touches on a lot of interesting topics. It's kind of disturbing, it kind of keeps you on the edge of your feet. Yes, it's a darker kind of novel at times, but I feel like it's the perfect book for somebody that just wants something that's like constantly making you question, constantly making you think, and the plot is constantly moving. I was never bored reading Verity, and I feel like Verity is really, really popular for a reason. So definitely check out Verity if you haven't yet. It's great for somebody that has a very short attention span. So I read this book a long time ago, probably in like 2016. It's been a really long time, but I remember when I read this book, I was like, wow. I was blown away by the pacing of this novel. I felt like it was so fast-paced, and I was literally sucked in instantly. And if you're looking for something that is sci-fi, but like a really easy to read sci-fi, like you love that sci-fi vibe, but you just don't want anything that's like too much, you know, like you need that simple read, read this. This is Consider by Christy Acevedo, and it's a duology. And the thing about this book is, so it's basically about this girl who is riding the bus home, and holograms, like these hologram things, start appearing all over the world. And while she's on the bus home with her boyfriend, they see one of these holograms appear. And these little beings come out of this hologram, and they say to everybody that you need to jump into these holograms before it's too late, because your planet is going to get hit by a comet, and it's going to destroy your planet, and you guys need to escape your planet, and to do that you need to jump through these holograms. So basically everybody on the planet has to decide for themselves if they trust these holograms. Should they jump through, you know, the portals, or do they not? Is this a trick? Like, who knows? So it's kind of like the whole world questioning, like, do we jump or do we not jump? And it's a really, really interesting novel, and the thing about this is the story starts on page 2. Literally page 2. There is no wasted time. Like literally she's on the bus with her boyfriend. The second page, the first hologram appears and the story gets started. So you're not wasting a ton of time getting to know these characters, getting to know the setting. The actual plot gets started instantly. You're sucked in, and you want to know, you know, whether or not people jump through these portals. The entire time I was like, oh my gosh, would I jump through the portal? Like, it's very thought-provoking, and I love books like that where I can really put myself in the main character's shoes and like question what I would do and like what this situation would be like. You know, young adult can be fun sometimes, and I feel like this is one of those YA books that's just really fun to read, if you know what I mean. So definitely check this one out. I just remember thinking while I was reading this way back in the day, like how fast-paced it was, how intrigued I was with it, and how like it never let up. Like I was just constantly wanting to pick up this book and like see what would happen. So the next one I was debating on putting on this list, but the reason that I did is for a very specific reason, and it's Bloodwater Paint by Joy McCauley. So this book is about Artemisia Gentileschi, who's like a famous Renaissance painter, and she was a female, and back in those days, women couldn't be artists. They basically had to put their husband's name on their work or their father's name, and Artemisia was brutally raped by her art instructor, and it's basically her fighting her rapist, basically, like way back in these old times where that just, you know, you didn't see that happen. And it's an amazing, amazing book. It's like total girl power, and it's an amazing read. Now, the reason this is so great for people with ADHD or really short attention spans is because it's written in verse, but it's really tangible. It's really easy to read. Like, it's not like you're trying to like decode a poem or anything like that. Like, it's still easy to understand. It's not one of those books that just feels extremely overwhelming to pick up, you know, because there's just such little words and it tells such a cool and unique story in such little words, and I felt like this was so easy for me to get through, and I absolutely loved it. And obviously there are trigger warnings in here, but I think Artemisia Gentileschi is one of the most interesting people in the world, and yeah, great story, great book. And any book I feel like written in prose is great for somebody that has a short attention span because they're just not very overwhelming. The Poet X, this is about a girl who wants to be a poet. That's like her goal in life, and she really wants to be a spoken word poet, but her parents are extremely like conservative. They want her to go a safer route with her career. She wanted to pursue her passions in poetry, and her parents were like, no, not gonna happen. They were also very religious, and they didn't want her like getting boyfriends, and they wanted to just like nail her down. But the great thing about this story as well is it's written in verse, like I said, and it's just really a beautiful story of, you know, watching a girl who was raised by people that just kind of wanted to hold her back, not let her follow her passions and her dreams, and her kind of fighting back and doing what she wanted to do. And it's just one of those really good stories. It is YA, but it's definitely like coming of age, and it's just a great, quick, fast-paced book. The audiobook is actually narrated by the author, but I feel like the prose, it's like I said, it's similar to Blood, Water, Paint, where it's extremely attainable. It's very like easy to understand. Like, you're not trying to decipher like a giant book of poetry or anything like that. So, you know, it's not daunting to read, but it's really, really good. Highly recommend, and it's great for somebody with a short attention span. Okay, so next up is a book, another book by Colleen Hoover, November 9. This is a book I read a long time ago, and the thing that I think makes this book so good for people with shorter attention spans is the fact that it's very compartmentalized. So there's very specific times in which the story takes place. So it takes place every single year on November 9. This girl meets this guy in this diner, and they start talking, and they decide that they're going to meet up every November 9th. Every year for like the next 5 years, because they have like plans for their future. They can't really date because they both are kind of going separate directions, but they do promise to meet up every November 9th at the diner. And so this book takes place kind of in every single year, so it's very compartmentalized, which I feel like works really, really well for people with short attention spans, because it's easy to kind of like break up into time frames. And I felt like this book was really fast paced. I was interested in it the whole time. I was interested in the relationship and the couple. There is a couple problematic things in this book, but as long as you recognize it and then can, you know, move past it, it's what you can do. But other than that, I just feel like this book was like very easy to read, and I really liked how it was like formatted and how it was plotted, and I was just very intrigued the whole time. It was really easy to pick up. It was just a very fast-paced book to read with a very, very specific format that really worked for me and my inability to focus sometimes. So this was great, highly recommend, and it's just a good, fun little read. Very romantic if you like romance. Okay, so the next one is actually a book called Fangs. Now this is a book that I got from the library, and before I get started on Fangs, graphic novels in general are great for people that lack focus, because they're really, really fast-paced. They're really easy to read. There's very little writing on every page. There's pictures. Like, graphic novels are perfect for just anybody with, you know, poor focus. So I read a lot of graphic novels just because I really like them for like palette cleansers, but this Fangs book was just specific because it's so quick. Like, you could sit in your library and read this in 2 seconds. It's so cute, and it's basically about a vampire and a werewolf that get together and they start dating, and it's kind of just like funny situations that would happen between a werewolf and a vampire, and like how like that would work out, and just like funny situations that you would see them in, and it's just so adorable. And I just feel like I want more. Like, I hope this author makes more of these because it was just so enjoyable. But like I said, any graphic novel would be great for people with short attention spans. The Prince and the Dressmaker was really, really cute. The Heartstopper graphic novels were really cute. Lore Olympus is really good if you like romance and you like Hades and Persephone. Really, really loved that one. Sheets was so cute. But I just feel like graphic novels are great, especially for people who want like a palette cleanser. If you just got done reading like a epic fantasy, like graphic novels are a great way to go. Just kind of like calm your brain, clear it out, and get ready for the next one. You know what I mean? So graphic novels are great. So the next one and the last one is a book that I read so long ago, and I am so mad at myself for getting rid of this book. I actually found this book at my Goodwill. I read it, and I was like, oh, I'm never gonna read this book again, and I ended up donating it. And I am so mad that I donated it because it was so funny. This is probably hands down the funniest book I've ever read in my life. It's the book that I laughed out loud reading the most, and I will pick this book up if I see it in a bookstore, and I will just read it. I'll just sit down and I will read it, and I will laugh in the middle of the bookstore because it's that funny, and it's so quick and it's so easy to read because, again, it's kind of like short stories, but it's hyperbole and a half, and it is so funny. Like, I feel like this book is very specific to like a time period. It has like that really funny artwork that's so over the top. She has like this really funny way of like telling stories in this very like dry, sarcastic way, but then the artwork on top of the really funny way that she writes is so gold. And this book is a must. It is so funny, it is so quick to read. It just feels like you're reading almost like a zine or something, but literally the funniest book I've ever read. I want to buy this book again, and I'm really mad, like I said, that I got rid of it because I would hands down read this book again. I would like leave it in my bathroom and just read the stories over and over again. But this book is so good for people with a short attention span because it is hands down the funniest book I've ever read. And the funniness quality and the humor will just keep you reading because it's just good. It's just good. Like, there's this one story that she wrote about her mom and how her mom took them out for a hike when they were little, and she got them lost, and she like didn't know what to do because she got the girls lost, and they were like lost in the forest, but she was trying to play it off like they weren't lost, and so she was like telling them to like collect, you know, pine cones, and like they were gonna play a game. Let's collect pine cones. And like, Mom, we don't want to collect pine cones anymore. We want to go home. And she's like, oh, like let's not go home. But in reality, she was like panicking inside because she was like lost. And the way that it was written was so funny. Like, I want this book so I could just read it. And that's all I have for this video. I know I could put more books in this video, like I was going through my Goodreads, and there's so many books I could put in this video if I wanted to. So if you guys want to see like a part 2, I could do that, because there is a lot of books that I really like that I feel like don't really get a lot of hype because they're not hyped for the reasons that I'm hyping them. You know what I mean? Like, I feel like these books are really great for a very specific thing. So anyways, thanks guys for watching. I hope this video was helpful and I hope you enjoyed it, and I will see you guys in my next one. Bye!